All right. Let's see if I remember how to do this guy. What's up, everybody? Welcome back for another episode of Buds, Bros, and Superheroes. If it's your first time coming to listen, it's going to go a little bit different here, so it's a good time to jump on board. If you've been listening for a while, things are going to be a little bit different, so just kind of sit in, hang out, and we're going to go through this together. Today I have Jem on. Jem and I are going to talk a lot about Power Rangers, so we'll just start right off there from the bat. We will get into the very specific nuances of that for Super Sentai too. So I should say that. It won't be a technical Power Rangers convo, but it will too. Anyway, rambling on stuff I didn't want to do, but we're going to start with, man, just thanks so much for coming to hang out today. I appreciate you very much. Go ahead and introduce yourself, talk a little bit, drop like the Instagram and stuff, because I'm sure there's going to be some people who came just to listen to you. I'm going to be like, why is this bearded man still talking?
Well, thanks for having me, dude. I really appreciate you having me. Yeah, my name's Jem. I, on social media, usually go by PrawnHorn Jem, or I like to say my name is Jem from PrawnHorn Heroes, usually on social media. I feel like that sets me just to make sure people know me as me, because I think, you know, there's a few followers on the socials, and when you have a title that's or a handle that's PrawnHorn Heroes, people start calling you PrawnHorn, and that's not my name. So I try to like make that distinction of like, I'm Jem from PrawnHorn Heroes, or, you know, PrawnHorn Jem, but you know me as Jem, so here I'm just as Jem today.
That's awesome. Can we talk about that though, just to go with the PrawnHorn and the meaning behind that? Like,
yeah, dude, for sure. It's so funny. So like, around 2020, when, you know, like stay inside happened and like we were all like quarantined and stuff, my partner and I decided we wanted to like, or I guess it was more me, and she was just like there for the ride. But like I kind of decided I really wanted to start talking more about like Power Rangers and like the Tokusatsu genre of like, you know, Super Sentai and Kamen Rider and Ultraman and stuff. And I really wanted to have a name that could encapsulate everything I wanted to talk about, but that was also very much me and like specifically Sophia and I. And we just kept bouncing off a couple things like for a good like month or so. Like we were Toku Marvel and More TV, and that was our name for a while, but it just didn't really, it's not something that rolls off the tongue. So it was something where like, you know, you go back to the drawing board and you're like, all right, well, nobody cares about like all the stuff we're trying to like, let's focus on us. And like, I always have loved rhinos. Like it's been like my spirit animal, if you will. And Sophia grew up being called Shrimp her entire life. So I was like, the name can't be Shrimp Rhino or Rhino Shrimp, but we can think of something. And I was like, all right, well, you know, shrimps, there's prawns, they're just big shrimp. And prawn it sounds cool to me personally. Like I just like the letters of that. Phonetically, I think it sounds cool. So like that was okay. So prawn. And then for rhino, I didn't really know what to do, because like I wanted to have it in there because like we were doing the animal thing. And I feel like with Power Rangers and Toku, like that's very like, you know, like a lot of villains are either animals or like an animal mixed with something else or, you know, whatever. So I was like, we need to keep this in there. And I just thought of horns, like rhino horns. So like the prawn and the horn came together, and that's how we got PrawnHorn, really. It's not the best story, but it's the...
It does make sense, you know, because when you think about a rhino, it is the first, that is their distinguishing kind of feature there.
Yeah.
So it makes sense.
It sounds better than shrimp rhino, so, you know.
That's a good point.
Yeah, man.
We're going to talk a little bit about how that started. Well, we just talked about how it started. More so what it does and what it encapsulates so much so. And then kind of also, without losing the conversation, how that does with Power Rangers. Or maybe we should educate a listener really quick about that.
Yeah.
Like, the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers started in 1993, and since then is continuing to run right then. And that's a USA kind of thing.
Yeah.
Based off of, though, a Super Sentai.
Yes.
Which is a Japanese show.
Yeah.
Which has the action scenes cut into American footage.
Yeah.
So anybody who has seen the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers should know it comes from Jew Ranger.
Jew Ranger, yeah.
So, like, something we could talk about and kind of dive into there is I knew that growing up into adulthood, right? that there was cutscenes. You can tell very obviously one of my favorite things with the Green Ranger is to watch his shield.
The shield.
If it's an American version of the Green Ranger, his shield looks like trash.
Yeah.
If it's an awesome original version, it's like
so
it looks
sleek
like
in
it could be a
Japan.
shield. I understood that not until I think maybe this past summer I had gotten some sort of streaming service that I'd gotten the Super Sentai Jew Ranger from.
Right.
So I watched it. Now, the thing that blew my mind and might blow other people's minds, but not yours, obviously, is like, in my mind, we were just rewriting the episodes. Therefore, if I watched Jew Ranger #1, season 1, episode 1, there would be a Japanese version of Rita Repulsa, like a Japanese version of Zordon, a Japanese version of Alpha, and that these 5 kids with attitude going to high school were brought in to fight this evil empress. That's not the story at all. That is our story. I just thought we were adapting it almost word for word and just switching out dialogue and maybe some cultural differences here and there. But the real story behind Super Sentai is Nuck and Futz, something that I can't believe we didn't kind of ever touch on here, of like them being 5 spiritual warriors, therefore the 5 animals, like why they've been around since these prehistoric times. And fucking what is Rita's name in that band?
Bandora.
All of a sudden
Bandora.
does come out of a space dumpster, if you will. Like that is true. But there is no Zordon. There is no Alpha. There is a wizard. There's a Dumbledore, if you will. But like, blew my mind.
Yeah.
So one of the things I asked you immediately when we started kind of talking and hanging out a little bit was, are there any Super Sentais that are anywhere close to Power Rangers that kind of even come close, you know? Because like the difference between those two stories of the American Power Rangers, the Mighty Morphin, I should say, just so people don't get confused, because Power Rangers is the umbrella.
Yeah.
Like there's many Power Rangers.
Yeah. Absolutely.
But are there any that you know of, at least? Because you more so watch the originals, if you will, the Sentais.
Yeah.
How'd you start getting into that and stuff? Let's dive real deep into that.
That was YouTube. Straight up. It was just YouTube. I remember when I got my hands on YouTube for the first time in like, what was it, like 2007, 2008, I just searched up like Dragon Ball Z English subs, you know. Second thing, Power Rangers. It was just like immediate, you know, and like that's just the truth. I could have lied and said the first thing I looked up was Power Rangers, but I know what happened, you know what I mean? So like it just was one of those things where like my priorities were like I grew up with this and I grew up with this. So watching, like I was telling you earlier, I only like watching Power Rangers. It was either reruns or DVDs or VHSs that my brother had. So like if we didn't have anything, I wasn't watching Power Rangers. So when YouTube was a thing, I was like, man, there's this site that can show me any video. They got to have something for Power Rangers. And then, you know, I would search and like not a lot would pop up. And like every other couple months I would go back on. And then, you know, like you'd start seeing like Rangers from like other countries. And like at first I was like, okay, well, that's, you know, like not really what I'm looking for. But then I started watching a couple videos here and there. And like around 2009, you started getting like full episodes of something. You know, like you get a new Super Sentai season and out of nowhere you see a Ranger suit that you'd never seen before because they haven't adapted that season yet. So I immediately click on that, you know, and then I'm watching a season that is called Shinkenger, that is about samurais, you know, and like they haven't done it in Power Rangers yet. So I'm watching this for the first time. I'm like, oh my God, this is like so sick. Like I love Power Rangers. Like this Japanese setting is something that like I'm not used to, and it was a samurai season, so it was very traditional Japanese. Like the show was just very set in very traditional Japan, for the most part. Like it's modern, but like, you know, like when you adapt something like samurais, like there's obviously going to be some type of like traditional aspect to it, especially when you're in Japan. So watching that show, I was like, oh man, this is very different for me. Very different, because I just grew up with Power Rangers my entire life. You know, like I kept up with every season. So like I really grew up with the show, I like to say. And watching the Sentai, it was just very, very different. But I was so intrigued. So like I kept up with it, and like there was a certain channel, I can't remember what it's called now or if it even exists still, but it was this channel that would upload every week the new episode of the new Sentai, and I kept up with it. Watched the next season after that called Go Sager. It was about angels. You know what I mean? Like, it's just weird stuff like that just kept me interested, and like I kept watching, and you know, eventually like I fell off a little bit, and time went by, and then you go back and like there's just seasons that you can watch via, you know, like either torrents or whatever online. You know, like there's different ways to watch stuff like you would anime back in the day, but yeah, there was ways for me to watch it, and like I found them because I was interested, you know.
That's awesome. I went pretty feverishly from Mighty Morphin Power Rangers to Lost Galaxy. I'm pretty positive I got through most of that. And then what was after that one?
After Lost Galaxy was Lightspeed Rescue.
For sure, never seen it.
Yeah,
not that. And
they
I
all
have
had,
threatened
like,
for a while to go back and like go through it.
I think
but
you
that's
should.
when Netflix had everything, and now it doesn't anymore.
No, it
and
doesn't.
I don't want to skip around.
No, I mean,
But Netflix Power Rangers became a show in which, you know, seasons 1, 2, and 3 is collectively kind of known as Mighty Morphin, where like you had to know. Zeo kind of changed that, where it's like, nope, we're Power Rangers Zeo now. It's a new season. However, if you watched all that past shit, it's not going to hurt you.
yeah.
Turbo kind of did that, and then halfway through that, we lost pretty much most of the main cast.
Which I feel like that's where a majority fell off, like the audience.
100%.
You know what I mean?
When they changed to TJ, Ashley, who, let's see if I could do this still. Justin hung around as well. Carlos.
You got it. One more.
I know. I can't remember the Pink Ranger, and I feel so bad.
You got it.
Nah, give it to me.
Cassie.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I would have gotten there, but for like a podcast
probably like a
listening
little
thing,
bit,
too long of a pause, people would have been like, come on. But I agree. A lot of people fell off then. However, I feel like they also fell off because Turbo kind of sucks in retrospect. When I go back and watch that, like, it's all campy. Don't get me wrong. The love of Power Rangers gets me through some of the stuff where I'm like, oh, geez, you know. But Turbo, from what I hear, is based off a Sentai that's like a goofy one, you know, where they already kind of, they did goofy shit. Like everything I remember about that one was like, one time they got baked into a pizza.
Yeah, I knew it. I knew we were going to talk about it.
I was like, that sums it up. Like, you know, sometimes in a lot of those, like the fate of the world was in stake. Like, but no, there's an episode of Turbo where they're like, we're baked in this pizza guy. What are we going to do? Elgar was really, really rough to listen to after a while.
It's so funny. It's so funny to think about now, too.
For sure. Yeah.
Especially like Car Ranger is a season that it's so, like you're saying, parody-ish. And like their what is it? Their roll call is fighting to protect traffic safety. Like, that's the whole theme of the show. They're just, like, safety patrol. And then they're rangers also. Like, they cross the kids. Like, they help the kids cross the street. You know, that's their day job. And, like, they do work at a shop. But, like, you know, aside from being mechanics, they're, like, safety patrol.
Part of me wants to, like, did you see, I don't know how many years back now, but the Dark Ranger video that came out? I don't know if that was the actual name of it. James Vanderbeek is in it. And, you know, Zach was doing cocaine in Tybo. And
yes.
Dark one.
Power
and it was all fucked
Ranger
up.
by, yes. I can't remember his name. Yes.
That was awesome.
That was awesome.
So hear me out here.
Yes.
That tone, because I like the idea of Rangers who are specifically looking out for you on the road. Because personally, and I don't know why, I really sometimes would like to think I'm pretty easygoing.
Yeah.
You know, like just kind of let it go. No time is too precious for me. You know, time is stuff.
Right.
But when I'm behind the wheel of a car and someone's acting a fool, I can get into anger mode immediately.
Oh, for sure.
Where I'm like, why do you think you can double park here? This road is narrow enough, and now you're going to double park because you're delivering food to the house there, and there's a spot, 2 spots up. which would require 15 steps, 30, if we're doing round trip. And like,
Right.
So now imagine that scenario. We open up on a road. Somebody's double parked. They go to get out, and it's a guy dressed as one of the Turbo Rangers. And he just slams the door back, and he's like, you don't double park here. Go park in that spot.
Go.
Something
buddy.
like that. Just imagine a Dark Ranger, out of nowhere, somebody's not pulled over on the shoulder enough, and he just comes and shoves it out of the way, and it's like, next time you'll think about pulling over and lighting all the flares like you should.
Right.
Just like really things where they are over exaggerated, but at the same time teaching us about like, don't be a dick on the road.
Yeah.
I would watch that.
I'd very much love to see that.
With that said, two things about Turbo to talk about. A movie, it's still pretty bitchin'.
Yes, I think the movie, I'd take the movie over the show any day, but the movie just holds up just like the theatrical release, like the original MMPR, the movie. I just think that both of those go so well together. I don't know if it's because I grew up with watching both of them, but I think like when I watch Turbo, it feels just as good, I get just as much out of it.
I don't want to lose it, but I want to backtrack then because we mentioned the first movie. Like, do you remember that came out and then like Ninja came out and just going, what the fuck just happened? Did we just like, I didn't know the word retcon, but I was so confused. And I remember not fighting, but just like telling kids like, no, you went to a different planet where Dalthea sent you to the Great Pyramid or the Great Monolith, and then you fought rock monsters, and then you got ninja powers. And other kids are like, no, you went to the Desert of Despair, where you looked inside of a vase, you found Ninjor, and he gave you ninja powers. I was like, this is what the like. Both are true. What the fuck is happening? Why would you do that to children?
So it's so funny. I wasn't able to live through it like you, like I guess I was when I got to the game, like it was already a debate,
That's
and
amazing.
I had to see it as like a which one came first or like which one is real. So like that's what I always like saw it as because I think I watched the movie first because I didn't see the Ninja Quest in the show until I was like way older. But as a kid, I would watch the movie. I just watched it the other day for National Power Rangers Day. I remember telling Sophia where like there's this one moment after they morph where when I was a kid, I remember running into my living room where there was like this mattress on the floor and doing a gainer. A gainer. There's no way I would do that nowadays. You know what I mean? But I remember just running and then just like shoo, and just like hero landing, you know what I mean?
Oh, a superhero landing.
Yeah.
Gainer?
Yeah.
Where does that come from?
Like a gain, like when you're running and like you just do like a you like kind of like a backflip in a way, but like, you're usually falling, but I just like backflipped and then just landed into like a superhero pose.
Okay.
It's never happened again in my life, but I remember doing it in front of that movie, the MMPR movie, right after they morph. You know what I mean? They're fighting the Ivanu's henchmen, like I just remember it so vividly, but it's never happened again. And I'll never do it again. I'll never backflip or do a gainer ever in my life again. But like it happened.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I kind of, yes and no.
Or at least I think it did.
I definitely remember standing in front of the TV and yelling out animals at the same time and stuff like that. That movie, it was a confusing thing for me at that time, and then even now I still don't understand why they did that, or if any real word ever came out about why they did that.
Yeah.
The other note that I took, we were talking about the guy atop the fourth wall. What was the
Linkara.
super cool?
Yes.
Do you remember when they got like in the series they get special armor that ends up being like the glitter?
The glitter, yeah.
Why don't you think so? Like the story behind that I learned, Mighty Morphin Power Ranger, the movie toys. Why don't you think that they put them in those armored ass awesome suits for those times rather than just like they had glitter suits, and it was pretty embarrassing.
You'd think, especially because they had them, like why not use them?
They're still around. Somebody has like the red one I just saw in a video. Like it looks like shit, but like
Right.
it's still pretty much all there.
Yeah, but I imagine back in the day, it's still freaking, they probably just had filmed the movie.
I think they said they were doing both at the same time. They were in Australia. If you remember the episodes where they're back in time and there's giant rat creatures.
Yes.
That was all being filmed in around the same time.
Yes. I heard the rat creatures were supposed to be the henchmen instead of the Tangas in the movie, but that they switched and made them Tangas.
That's another confusing ass thing to bring up as a child because Ivan Ooze makes tank. There you go. No. If you're a Power Ranger fan, you know that Rita Repulsa has a brother named Rito Revolto who came and like planted eggs on the moon that hatched into the Tangas.
Yes.
So that was another thing where it's just, I remember being a kid like, the fuck is going on?
Yes. Well, it's funny because I think the Tangas in the show are called Tangas, but the Tangas in the movie are called Tangus or Tankus. There's either a K or it's a G and a U, but they're not called the same thing.
It's amazing.
Yes, it's so weird. I remember because I was showing Sophia Mighty Morphin. She had never seen Mighty Morphin. I had shown her every season, literally every season except Mighty Morphin. We had even watched, I think, In Space, and like, I think after In Space, I was like, okay, we're not going to watch Turbo because if you watch Turbo, you have to go in from Zeo, and if you watch Zeo, you have to watch. So if we're going to do this, we're going to do this from the beginning. So I just showed her like milestones in the show because I didn't want to go through every single episode of MMPR. No offense to anybody, but like I just didn't want to do that. I just wanted to show her like these key moments. She had never seen the power transfer. She had never seen, Tommy becoming White Ranger from like going from the Green Ranger. She was like, I thought he was the Green Ranger. I had to explain that to her. So like she was able to see those moments. But through that, we watched the movie, and then I think right after that we started getting into season 3, and I noticed that the Tangas just had a different name in the movie than they do in the show. And I don't know, it's so weird, and maybe somebody can correct us, but like they are different, and I just think that's fascinating.
Shout out to, I'm almost positive his name is Nick Carter, who did all the songs for that.
Oh, man.
Because the Tango Warriors is dirty in the sky, and then it goes into that great, like, watch them Tangas die. That's a ba-dun-dun-dun. Like, that was, to this day, still sticking in there.
That's awesome.
Back to Turbo then, to kind of try to keep this all in a loop. Really quick, though, I am paranoid and going to be more transparent in doing the podcast. Can you look over? We are recording this whole time, right? On the screen, stuff's showing up. It is my moving. Voice is going. It's moving and stuff. Yep. I just got so paranoid. Like, it's going good. What if we haven't been recording this whole time?
Yeah, no. There's one track and it's moving.
All right. Well, that's cool. Good. Not only that, but on the show too, we have been used to smoking, so we could start doing that too if you want. If you want to pass me that. So Turbo, kicking ass movie, and then the end point countdown to. No, it's not Countdown to Destruction. Is it? Is it Countdown to Destruction?
That's the finale for In Space?
In Space. Sorry, what's Countdown to Launch, maybe? I thought that was another countdown. I could be wrong. Anyway.
Oh, like when they go to space.
Yes.
Yeah.
Just like you talked about, it was great how you even summed that up, and we've been kind of hinting on the fact of like the Zordon era being one giant thing. There was a lighter in my pocket this whole time.
Yeah.
The Zordon era being one big thing. And like, yes, if you're going to watch Zeo, you need to watch Goldar and Rito Revolto blow up the thing, and then they find it and their feet get stuck, and Rangers, please step through the portal. Like, you need to watch all that to see the rebuilding and blah, blah, all the way through. So going to space, though, I do remember, like, you kind of talked about and said so eloquently, which I appreciate. Like, you lived through it. Like, yeah, I did live through it. Like, I do remember them. Like, for some reason, Justin has NASA connections. Let's talk about Justin really quick.
Yeah,
like,
please.
As somebody, again, eloquently lived through it, at the time, it was a good idea. I was the target audience. Their idea being, like, the kids, the target, they want more than to think they can grow up into Power Rangers. They want to do it now. How can we do that? Let's introduce youth that when he morphs, he also grows tall so we can match Sentai. And that worked for me because I was like, fuck, just slap on the morpher, bro. I can go. I can do it. We can do it.
Right.
Watching it now, it's just like we said, it was already a pretty silly kind of season, so there's hardships to watch through on the action side. Meanwhile, on the other side, like, he's whiny. And it's very centered around stuff, and he's got stuff to deal with, and he's pretty whiny. How do you feel about that?
Honestly, in Turbo the movie, I very much enjoyed his character because it's that underdog story in the beginning, you know, like he's that kid that, you know, like has that situation with like his dad, and like, you know, Rocky gets into that accident, and like he then takes up the mantle of the Blue Ranger. So, you know, it's like it's that coming of age, if you will, but he's still not coming of age because he's small. But like it's that story of like you're feeling for him, and especially the kids, like they want to be him. So I very much enjoyed it. I still get emotional now when I hear him say, "Guys, I'm the new Blue Ranger." Like that it gives me goosebumps. You know what I mean? Like every time I watch the movie, I very much tear up in that scene just because it's so iconic to me personally, and I feel like a lot of kids can probably like put their adults now, obviously, but a lot of kids could probably put themselves in his shoes or just feel that sentence, you know? So throughout the movie, loved him. When it came to the show, I feel like I don't know. Well, first of all, why is he in high school? You know, like I think they have him be like he's like super smart or something, so he gets to skip a couple grades,
but can't solve his own problems either. So he's not that smart. He can kind of figure out some things, but just like, I don't know, my friend, like just normal kind of problems that somebody who would be so hyper intelligent to get through the course load of a teenager at that point would easily fix. So it is one of those things when you're watching, you're just like, doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense.
Yeah, and it's something that I noticed a lot more now because we just finished watching Turbo like a couple months ago. It's probably like maybe like, you know, a year now at this point, I guess. But I remember watching it and thinking so many different things about Turbo itself as a season, but then just Justin and how I just really wish that he wasn't there. You know, like no offense, but like I really at that point I was like, I miss Rocky. Like, honestly, and I never thought I'd say that, but I did miss him. You know what I mean?
To shoot back to Linkara, too. Like, not until he pointed out that he has almost nothing to fucking do ever did I ever realize, like, oh, yeah, he got, like, addicted to gambling that one time, but, like, that's all they really ever gave him.
Yeah.
Really quick side note, I wish that, like, the show had a production value enough that, like, if somebody was watching this, I could put up the image, but we'll talk them through it. The disrespect that was given to Mr. Cardenas. He must have been going to a con of some sort where some sort of PA or production assistant, that's what that is, or I don't know what their level would be there. But they were told, I'm guessing, hey, you got to print everything for these people. You have somebody named Steve Cardenas. He was the original Red Ranger, and he is coming. And they printed out this giant sign with the right name on it, but with Austin St. John as the photo. And it's this photo of him looking at it kind of like, the fuck? And like that person hopefully was fired. Anybody who's not keeping up with all the names, in our Mighty Morphin Power Rangers Season 1, we have Mr. Austin St. John become the original Red Ranger. With the power transfer that we were talking about almost a little bit earlier, Steve Cardenas, a.k.a. Rocky, comes in to be said Ranger, and then goes on to be Blue Zeo and a little bit of Blue Turbo, as we were saying. So basically, I mean, it's a slap in the face like no other.
It's funny because sorry. It's funny because that intern or whoever got that image like easily looked up the original Red Ranger. That's him, all right. And of course it was Austin St. John because that's the original Red Ranger. But I mean, it's also a quick search to just like MMPR Red Ranger, and I feel like even Google will just show you like different actors that have played that role, you know. So I feel like it shouldn't have happened, like it really shouldn't have. But I think it's so funny that it did.
I also like I had a bad experience with Austin St. John that you and I have talked about. It might have been talked about otherwise here in other episodes, so we don't have to go through it again. But he's got a pretty funny story where he meets the guy who plays the Jew Ranger, Red Ranger, where he kind of says to him, "Whoa, dude, you know, people always say to me, like, you're the original Red Ranger, but you're the original Red Ranger," kind of deal. And he goes, "Yeah, you're like 15 or something like that."
Yep.
And Austin St. John's just like, "Oh shit!" Like, you know, he kind of thought like, "No, you're number one in your," like he kind of thought he might like have his back or something. The ashtray's right there. But nah, he just kind of like leads him out, and he's like, "Nah, you're 15. Good for you," kind of deal. Which is a great story.
I love it because it's humbling for Austin St. John. You know, like he his whole life he's like, "Yeah, I'm the first," knowing that there's a Japanese counterpart. You know, so like then he meets his Japanese counterpart, and he's like, "Hey, so like I've always said I'm the first, but like you're the first." And then he's like, "No, I'm not.
Even.
Not exactly. It's not even me. Like, there's like 14 other guys before us, dude." Like,
it's insane to think how long, you know, that's been going on. And we were talking a little bit off mic and a little bit leading up to this of how that all started in Japan and the different kind of things. And you're very much into, as well as Power Ranger, Super Sentai, but the Kamen Rider. And kind of we can circle there, but I want to circle back to talking about in space because that's where we left off chronological. But tell me about the Kamen Rider.
Yeah.
Oh, and we could talk about it a little bit too with the Power Rangers, because if anybody saw A Friend in Need, you kind of know what we're talking about.
right. Yeah. That's something that I mentioned earlier. There's been iterations of Kamen Rider in the US for Western fans. There's been Saban's Masked Rider back in the 90s. And then in 2008 or 2009, I believe, probably 2009, there was Kamen Rider Dragon Knight. And I believe it was on WB Kids, but it was just literally they took a Kamen Rider season from 2002. They took all the suits because they have like 13 different Kamen Riders in that show. And they made a new show in 2009. It's kind of crazy that like gap of like an adaptation, you know, like taking something from years ago and trying to make a new show out of it. But that was the other adaptation, Kamen Rider Dragon Knight. It's so unfortunate you can't find it anywhere. You can't find it on Tubi. It's not on Amazon. It's not anywhere you would watch Power Ranger stuff.
It's weird that it's not even on Amazon, because usually you could find it there where they're like, pay up and we'll let you do it.
Yes, I'm sure maybe you could find old DVDs or maybe like actually, I don't even think it got a DVD release. I think there might be like fan-made burned DVDs that you could buy. And there's obviously stuff online. Like that's how people watch it nowadays. Like there's stuff online from the episodes because Japan ended up getting, this is a little tidbit about Dragon Knight, Japan got a Japanese dub of Kamen Rider Dragon Knight. So when that happened,
we got to talk about the level of inception there that's happening with
it's
that.
so crazy. And they've done this with Power Rangers too, where like they've had a Power Ranger season get dubbed by the Sentai actors in Japan. So you get to watch the whole Power Ranger season, but it's actually dubbed by the characters or the voices that you know from the Super Sentai. It's crazy.
It's kind of bitching. And like we were
It's
talking
pretty
about,
cool.
there's an entire nation of Japanese people who love watching these characters who don't know that, you know, oh, Kimberly does gymnastics and her best friend Trini have a school talent show coming up or something like that. It is like it's like me watching the Jew Ranger of just like, oh, wow, you know, like I understand this to a point, but now it's expanded into a whole different realm. Like,
Yeah.
that's kind of bitching.
Yeah, and it's really cool. And that's something that Dragon Knight has done, right? But just to answer your question about Kamen Rider in general, like for me, Kamen Rider was just this thing that I had known about because of Super Sentai. I was mentioning to you earlier, Superhero Time. It's this 1 hour block that kids get on Sundays or Saturdays every morning, and it's every weekend, Superhero Time. And it's Super Sentai and Kamen Rider. And I would watch those episodes of that samurai Sentai I was talking about earlier, and within that there'd be a promo for that Kamen Rider, or the Kamen Rider for that year. And so I'd see a suit of a Kamen Rider. I would see like episode clips of that season for Kamen Rider, but I would never be interested. I would always be like, oh, that looks a little weird. Like I'd never watch that. And then it wasn't until like 2013 or 2014, there was a Kamen Rider season that was very popular. I'm guessing because of Fruit Ninja, the app, but this Kamen Rider season was fruits and samurai. Like that's, and sorry to go back to the samurai thing, but like it just like combined the two in its aesthetic. So like the main hero was an orange and the secondary rival character was a banana. You know what I mean? And when I'm telling you that you're watching a show and rooting for the banana hero, that's insane.
So when you say banana and orange, is that like the spirit, like, you know, so the first one is like trying to, like, we're still talking about people dressed up, right? Or are we literally physically watching an orange?
No, yeah. So
Okay.
it's
still transformation. There is still something like that aspect.
Yes. And when I say like these fruits, they're not like exactly like copy and paste onto a suit. It's very much like they mix it in with like specific warriors or like armor aesthetics. Like they very well mesh it in with like different styles, and it's really, really cool.
Have you ever seen Hey Arnold? The first episode of Hey Arnold, where they're supposed to show up as the banana and the strawberry.
Yeah.
That's what I popped into my head at first too. I was just like, all right,
Halloween
that's cool.
costumes.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. But yeah, that's so like that season happened, and I remember just like thinking this looks ridiculous. And then you found out that they used locks. That was like the gimmick for the year, the collectible. That's what they used to transform. That's what they put in their belts. And then also that when they weren't Kamen Riders, they were just kids that danced. They were different dance groups that fought for territory by dancing one another. So not only did they dance,
So like real life West Side Story plus Power Rangers plus fruit.
plus Pokemon.
Jeez,
Because then the locks that they had to transform with, you could use them without a belt to summon monsters from another realm. So let's say you had a lock that was a watermelon. If you opened that lock, a zipper would open up in the sky, and then a monster would pop out. And then you could control that monster with that lock in your hand via whatever, you know. But so like these kids would fight for territory by dancing, but then by also monster battling. And then it wasn't until one guy got a belt that he then started fighting these monsters that they used to battle. Again, it goes way down a hole, but Kamen Rider Gaim, that's the season. Kamen Rider Gaim is such an impactful season, and it's probably like, I hate to say this because like anybody that is listening that knows Kamen Rider might hate me for saying this, but Kamen Rider Gaim is almost a peak in Kamen Rider because it has great storytelling, it has great suits, the fight choreography is amazing. There's so many things to that season that really leave something to you. It's almost like I'm sorry with what I'm about to say. Gaim is almost like Mighty Morphin in the sense that there's such an impact to it because of everything that it has, that it left an imprint on me, and then I just kept watching Rider after that. Like I was so intrigued to see what Rider did that Sentai wasn't doing, because Kamen Rider is also geared towards a slightly older audience. It's been on for a little longer, and it's been through a different history. Like Super Sentai has been every year, no matter what, you get a Super Sentai season. Kamen Rider in the 80s took a break. They stopped making shows in the 80s, and they released 3 movies in the 90s, and they were all meant to be like reboots of sorts, but they never really worked out. So in 2000, they rebooted the show with a new style, a new feel to the show. It was less campy and more like ER with transforming guys and like monster suits. It was like Law and Order in ER. You know, like there was more of a serious, dramatic element to the shows that the 80s shows had. but it was very different. The show that they rebooted it with is called Kuga, and that is available to watch. I highly recommend it. I have it on DVD, and I almost brought it for you, but you can check it out on Tubi. It's called Kamen Rider Kuga. I showed it to my mom, and she loves it. So like, it's just so good. It's so good. But the like Kamen Rider has just gone through a history where like they've gone through changes. And the show in itself is different from Power Rangers in the sense that Power Rangers is, you know, in Mighty Morphin five teenagers with attitude. Every season has 5 Rangers. After that, Kamen Rider is one guy. He is not a team of people. He has a team of like humans that help him, but on the battlefield, he is one guy. And whereas like Dragon Ball Z have like Kamehamehas as finishers and stuff, Kamen Riders have kicks. So their Kamen Rider kicks are like that big finisher that you're waiting for. And like each season and each year just does it differently. And like stuff like that sounds so simple, like a kick or like a punch. But like Kamen Rider just seems to take stuff simplistic like that, or something as simple as like a fruit, and make it just so different. It makes it so interesting. And that's how like I ended up just like falling in love with that, and just falling in love with the genre of Tokusatsu in itself. Sorry for that answer. It was so long-winded.
No, I loved it. It made me think of 2 things. First was being like, we've never really, we being the show, has never really gotten any interaction kind of from a fan base or anybody listening really. Not too often, I should say. But the idea of somebody just like going, I can't believe he said this about like, because you're like, some people out there are going to hate me. I was like, I can't imagine getting a comment on my page of like, this guy has no idea what he's talking about. How dare he say? That's the first thing that came up. The second one is more trying to explain to anybody who doesn't know on what we will call my side of Power Rangers with the belts. And then we're going to kind of tie that into your YouTubing and making stuff.
Yeah.
So anybody who's like a Power Ranger fan knows that they have the morphers.
Yeah.
They go ahead and use the morphers, and they kind of different throughout the thing. Yeah. So something I learned tonight, and we just expanded on with the single Kamen Rider almost, is they don't have morphers, they all have belts.
Yeah.
So when you were saying they get different belts and they find it, you know, they're not literally talking about shit to hold this guy's pants up. It's that is their power source and what will transform them into the Kamen Rider almost, we were saying. The other thing I was trying to expand upon, and I think is cool, and I'm trying to think of an American equivalent to try to say, like we were talking about, Super Sentai is doing its own thing every year. But when Kamen Rider and Super Sentai exist at the same time concurrently, they do have the opportunity and have in the past crossed over.
Yeah.
So again, I'm trying to think of something that's done that here, but I can't really think of it live action, at least. You know, I know cartoons kind of do that all the time, and from studio to studio, you know, Nicktoons can cross all the time, or Cartoon Network, that kind of happens. But I can't think of like a live action one where that really happened.
I feel like I don't, because I feel like it's right in front of us, but I don't know if it's the same. So like I'll say it, but I think it hasn't been on as long, so this is why I didn't. Maybe it's not the most obvious answer, but I think like the DC like Arrowverse, you know, like the Flash,
good point,
Supergirl, Arrow. I feel like all of those shows are on their own, you know, and they each have like all those IPs have their own fandoms. But they have, you know, like come together and stuff. You know, I just didn't want to say like the MCU or the DC, because like those are like movie franchises. But like for TV, like I feel like the Arrowverse definitely like gets that right there, you know. And again, it hasn't been on as long as like Super Sentai and like other Toku shows, because then there's Ultraman also, and like that's been on for like the longest time. But I think the Arrowverse has that aspect of just like being able to cross over certain IPs and just like have fun with them, and like they have like shows of like multiple heroes and stuff.
Are you deep on that?
I'm not. I'm very novice on it. It's something that all of my siblings are like, "Did you start watching The Flash yet?" And I'm like, "I'm still on episode 4." For the last few years, you know, like
I'm watching the show about a fast boy very slow. I'm doing it ironically almost.
Yeah, I just, you know, my life and my time is taken up by Toku, so it's hard.
Not bad.
Yeah.
A lot of the first few Arrows seasons are good. Same thing for The Flash.
I've heard good things.
Supergirl was fine. I didn't do Legends too much, but I like that comparison. In my mind, I don't know why. I didn't even watch Disney growing up, but we were talking about like live action. I was like, Hannah Montana did go on The Sweet Life of Zack and Cody one time. I don't know. I didn't watch that. So your answer made so much more fucking sense, though. So that was pretty cool. Thanks.
It's so funny. I also could have gone that route, but I was trying to think of like superhero stuff, and I was like, that's it's
That happens all the time in superhero kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Wherein at all do the big bad Beetleborgs fit in to either Kamen Rider, Super Sentai, anything? Is it its own thing? Do they ever cross in your universe? Because the only time I've seen them cross in ours is in Forever Red, what could be the greatest episode of Power Rangers to ever happen.
Absolutely.
And there is a Beetleborg there, and he's a bad guy. Nobody talks about like, hey, does Flabo know you're here?
Yeah. All right. Are you ready to get your mind blown?
Probably.
Awesome. So there's another subcategory of Toku, or like another show, like the Super Sentai, or Kamen Rider.
So what's the big umbrella there? Toku.
Toku, yeah. Tokusatsu. Like anime is a genre, and then you have all these shows. Like I'd say that anime is Tokusatsu. Tokusatsu is the genre, and then everything else is like underneath that.
So does Toku then always involve kaiju?
Yes, because the granddaddy of Toku is Godzilla. He is the godfather.
That guy, yeah. That Morphin Master was saying, like, if you guys really want to have your shit blown, just know Godzilla is technically a Power Ranger of sorts.
Yep.
And I was like,
because he's the godfather of Toku. It's the first,
You said that so epically. It's the first.
It's the first.
It's where it started.
It's dope. Where it really is. It's
right.
A guy in a rubber suit fighting stuff. You know what I mean? And like that's just as basic as I can put it. I'm not trying to undermine it, but that's just the basic way to put it. And even Ultraman, I don't know if you know anything about Ultraman, but like that first episode, I believe the monster he fights is, somebody will correct me, I know it, because I'm definitely sending people your way, but I think it's Gamera or it's Gomez. It's Gomez. And Gomez is a retool of the original Godzilla suit. So like it just looks like Godzilla from like the OG Japanese movie, but they just put like a horn and like a mustache or something, and now it's Gomez. So like it's just like really
quick mixing worlds. Did it ever bother you that Dark Spectre and
yes,
and Malagor, and they didn't even fucking put a mustache on him or nothing?
I'm so glad you brought it up because they're the same. I always hated. As a kid, I was like, "That's so Malagor."
Confused. What are we doing going backwards? What's happening?
Like they just think I'm supposed to believe that that's not the same guy.
At least, like even if they made the magma blue, just anything different. But like you said, slap a fake mustache on him and just
and
call
it's
him
fine. Right.
It would have been different, but nothing.
Yes.
Nothing?
Yes.
They were like, no, that's Dark Spectre.
That's enough. Yeah.
Like, okay.
Like that's
took
it.
So much as a kid, though. You're just like, fine, I'll take care of that.
Yeah. But to answer your question about Beetleborgs, there's another show in the Tokusatsu realm that has ended, unfortunately. It didn't stand the test of time, but it's called Metal Heroes. And that's where you have so many different types of shows. It wasn't like Super Sentai and Power Rangers, it wasn't like Super Sentai and Kamen Rider where it really kept that same theme every year. They tweaked it often. They had branches of Metal Heroes. There were the rescue teams that specifically were like rescue focused, like emergency rescue type heroes, and then you had like RoboCop type Metal Heroes where they were humanoid robots that drove cars and like they were superheroes that saved the day. A lot of different iterations. There was another version that were called B Fighter Kabuto, and that is where Beetleborgs comes from. Then you get, it's B Fighter That's the first one. That's Beetleborgs. And then B-Fighter Kabuto is Beetleborgs Metallics, where they get like the other suits.
The gold ones.
Correct.
I totally had that toy.
Yes.
For sure.
Right. So like
For sure.
That's where those 2 seasons come from. And to take it a step further, VR Troopers.
Thank you. That was going to be my next
All of
follow-up.
those suits
Okay, cool.
were either 1 or 2 different Metal Hero shows. So like I think they took like maybe even a third to give the main VR Trooper that new blue suit. But they were all different Metal Hero shows. And Metal Heroes, their OGs are Gavan. Gavan's the first one. Space Sheriff Gavan. He's the first one. And then there's Space Sheriff Sharivan. And then there's Space Sheriff Scheider. They're all just like guys that look like RoboCops. But RoboCop was actually influenced by Metal Heroes. Like the design was influenced by Metal Heroes. And like all these space sheriffs are just so basic looking, but they have like big lightsabers and they're just so badass. Like the original episodes are on YouTube if you're ever interested to watching them or like into watching them. But all of these heroes just didn't sell well like Super Sentai. They didn't sell well like Kamen Rider and all these other shows. So they at one point became very kiddish. Metal Heroes turned into like big bubbly cartoon mascots. At one point there was, I forget the show, I think it's Kabutak. Kabutak is literally like a preschool like baby show. Like it's not even like a tokusatsu that we could watch ourselves like as adults. Like it's not something that you would enjoy. It's literally for kids. There's like building blocks and like this like elephant type thing like will turn into very cool, honestly. We'll turn into a hero, but it's made for like a very, very much younger audience. And I think it was because they weren't selling to the audience that they were selling with Power Rangers and Kamen Rider. I'm assuming, I could be talking out of my ass. Assuming though, that's the route they went in. And unfortunately it just died because it just didn't sell. So, then we eventually got VR Troopers, we got Beetleborgs, and I think through that, like, there were some toy sales, but, like, even that didn't really last for us that long either, which I was disappointed in.
Yeah, 3 things to unpack there for me to kind of hit back with.
Yeah.
Beetleborg's fucking fever dream of an idea for anybody who can't really remember. Like, honestly, just go and search up the opening because, like, any good opening of the 90s, are like, let's tell you what's going to happen right now. And it's like three something kids stumble upon a mansion. Now they're Beetleborgs. Anyway.
Yep.
But, like, they find a somewhat Genie meets Elvis kind of cool ghost
like Jay
guy,
Leno.
Jay Leno, giant chin on the guy. Yeah, good call. It's very strange, and they become like they live in a house with a mummy and a werewolf, and it's just strange. So I'm doubting that the Metal Men were anything like that.
Yeah, no way. It was very different.
Only thing I really remember about VR Troopers is now all in retrospect when I, as an adult brush up on it. As you said, I did not live through that. Whether or not I just wasn't aware of it, I don't know. But it was supposed to be like a Tommy Oliver kind of spin-off from what I hear now, which is pretty interesting considering, shout out first and foremost to our giant rest in peace to Jason David Frank, the most popular Power Ranger to ever be.
Yeah.
That would have been interesting to see.
Yeah, I agree. And I think maybe that's why they decided to take or have JDF be the face of maybe a new version of Power Rangers. They were taking like the Metal Heroes route and they were like, hey, let's use him because people love him. And maybe the show that they already had in syndication before like they had started filming, would do well. And I think there's that trust in JDF specifically, like what he did back then. But I think it speaks to the Metal Hero show and like how cool it could have been possibly, but It is what it is.
I honestly don't trust the audience of that day to fully understand what we were just talking about with the multi-current
Yes.
two things going on that are similar but not the same, can cross over but don't have to.
Yeah.
I don't think they would have gotten it, so I think that it ended up being a pretty good move as to not have that, but still would have been something.
Yeah.
Final thing to kind of talk about as I was kind of bouncing was Saban made one more. We talked about a lot. We talked about Power Rangers, Beetleborgs, VR Troopers. Do you know what the last one I'm going to say is?
I really hope so.
I really hope we're going to talk about really quick the Mystic Knights of Tir Nanog.
Yes.
What a fucking great show that was.
Yeah,
I
man.
remember being super obsessed with that one. Like you were kind of talking about with Samurai and just the old school knowledge and like all the tradition and stuff like that. And the Western side of it is Knights, in my opinion.
Yes. I know. I 100% agree.
So let's mix Knights with Metamorphosis, with the morphing kind of aspect, and now add elements too. Yeah. And just boom, boom, boom. A little bit of Fraggle Rock in there with like little people and a kind of thing. Evil sorcerers. It's like Game of Thrones a little bit now too. Like, you know, a grown-up version of that show could probably fucking kill.
Dude, I would kill for a reboot, a revamp of that, because that show is original.
Yes.
There is no counterpart to that. You know, like that didn't come from any show in Japan. Like that is a show that I don't know if they filmed in New Zealand or wherever they filmed, but like, dude, for what it was. And like, I remember like, it's almost like dreams for me. Like I don't remember as vividly as like Power Rangers, but like, I remember the first episode when like that Red Warrior gets his armor. Like, I think he's like in a cave or like he's inside the dragon or something. Like, I can't remember, but I remember thinking it's so cool. And then there's like the other ones, and like they all have like the different powers and the different weapons and stuff. I just remember thinking that was really neat, and it wasn't Power Rangers.
From what I remember, and I could be wrong, and the cool thing about it is, you know, day at the dumpster, here's some morphers, here's the coins, boom, you figured it out, your Power Rangers off and running 10 minutes in. These guys were knights and warriors in their own sense, or I should say guys and one gal. However, they needed, from what I remember, I hopefully will be corrected if not, the weapon to then give them the power. So the first guy, if I'm not mistaken, was the fire guy, had to battle a dragon to get a sword. Once he was able to almost like knight King Arthur it out of where it was, he can then morph into fire guy. And then like now it's the next episode. You know, they all split up. Water guy, if I'm not mistaken, had to get a trident.
Yep.
Earth guy had to get, is it a mace? Is that what that's called? You know, the very heavy ball with the chain and the thing. And then finally Arrow Girl was just that. She needed to get an arrow. And not until all these things were retrieved could they morph. And then they came back and we were like 5, 6, 7 episodes in, like, whoa. You know, now we're a team.
Yeah.
No mechs that I remember.
Yeah.
I don't remember them like getting some sort of final finisher. You know, they always morphed. They always kind of took stuff up, but there wasn't like a pet dragon or like you have a dragon and you have a shark. And
right.
What I don't remember live that I was caught onto later was that they then introduced what is essentially a 6th Ranger, even though it was only their 5th member. There was still the mysterious one, the one that came out of nowhere. I think it was lame though. I think he was like Forest. I'm almost certain, you know, there's like fire, water, earth, air, and like he's the spirit of the forest. So they were going for a green fucking ranger, man. But
that's fair.
I don't remember it as much like
no,
living
I don't remember that either, actually. Because I remember seeing a clip of him in a YouTube comp of like their transformations or just like clips of each Mystic Knight. And I remember seeing him and I'm like, who was that? I don't remember him. I remember all these other guys vividly. I remember the opening vividly, but I don't remember that guy.
Speaking of the opening, man, start with the bagpipes and just the Mystic Knights of the Tir Nanog, and then just
so good.
It was cool, and kind of like you were saying too with the remembering. Like I remember for sure having the 4 dolls or the 4 figures.
Yes.
I don't remember having the last one or anything like that. Like, only brought to me through, I think we were talking about the guy Toy Galaxy. That guy's pretty good. And nothing, yeah.
Can't really think of it.
And no DVDs.
No. I'd pay for them.
I would.
Easily.
I would pay an unfortunate amount of money for those DVDs.
Yeah, I mean, anything, honestly. I don't think you can find a lot of good like versions of those episodes nowadays, which is a bummer because I would love to rewatch it. Just hearing you mention all of the weapons that everybody, I'm like, yeah, I want to see that. Why can't I see that right now? You know,
it is weird, especially too with Saban. Like,
yeah.
He's even gotten bigger, you know. Saban Industries once crossed both loves of my life, you know. He's Saban, and they produced Jay and Silent Bob Reboot.
Yeah.
In Jay and Silent Bob Reboot, they go, wait, Saban, like, didn't they make the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers? And honestly, too, I always wanted to talk to Kevin about this because there is a line where Craig Robinson is the judge, and he goes, "Oh man, didn't you ever see the one where the Red Ranger becomes the Gold Ranger?"
Yeah.
That's a fucking deep cut.
That's a
line. Dumb deep cut.
Yeah.
Like,
and everybody gets that.
No, I mean knowing that the white or the green turns into the white, like we were talking about the JDF, the hype around that, even to the quote unquote normies of the world.
Yes.
And all of that also lies within Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, which most of the American pop culture system doesn't understand. There's more that lives on past that.
Yes.
So now we're talking about Zeo, and we're talking about pretty deep into Zeo.
Yes. That's why I thought it was a deep cut, like you're saying, because we're not talking about Mighty Morphin, the thing that everybody knows as Power Rangers. We're not getting into the season that came after. So, like, for you to make that joke, you know.
Because as a giant Kevin Smith fan, I hear him talk a lot.
Right.
Have you ever heard him bring up Power Rangers?
No.
Like in 1993, he was just trying to start making movies and stuff like that, talking about dirt. Like, there's no way that he would have been into on the side this Mighty Morphin Power Ranger. I don't think anyway.
No, but I'll tell you what, I would watch a show or a movie made by Kevin Smith that was Power Rangers related. I think Teenagers with Attitude and Kevin Smith, like, I don't know, maybe not go hand in hand, but maybe they go foot in hand, and maybe that's funny. You know?
A Kevin Smith fan's going like, no, they go ass to mouth. Like, you shouldn't.
Exactly.
Like Clerks 2, like ass to mouth, right? Like, that's fine.
I don't know. I think there's something there, and like, I don't know if you know what's going on with Power Rangers right now, but like, they're currently in this weird era where like, I think they're taking a break after this newest season that is kind of like a season 3 to Dino Fury. I don't want to get into it too much, but the goal is that I guess they're rebooting the show, and I don't know what that means, but they're taking it under a different direction, and I would love to see different types of directors or showrunners or storytellers to take the IP or to take Power Rangers somewhere else, because I feel like what's been going on with the show is just very plain. You know, I thought the 2017 movie was cool. I don't know if you liked it, but I thought it was cool. I
liked a lot of it.
Yes, yeah.
I liked a very good amount of it.
Cool.
As two people who have eaten Krispy Kremes tonight, I think it's funny that we're bringing it up.
That is so funny.
That is the one part where I'm like, I didn't like the product placement that hard.
Yes, yeah.
But there was so many good ideas in it that I was like, this really could have been something.
I think about it every time.
I really, honestly, and I'm not kidding, and it's unfortunate, I really think if the first joke of the whole movie wasn't like, I just manually masturbated this bull.
Yeah.
That the whole movie could have gone in a whole different way. Because I think when we got that, a lot of people rolled their eyes and went, I'm done with this.
Yeah.
And I know it sounds silly to linchpin on that, but
oh no, I agree.
It was such a dumb joke. Anybody who hasn't seen it, like, you know, Jason, who's played by the Stranger Things boy Billy in that show, he was kind of a bad guy. I guess that was season 3 and 4.
Yeah,
super good looking kid. Like, for somebody who's going to take up Jason, I'm like, fuck yeah, dude. Like, it's a great casting choice, great actor, but he's a bit of a troublemaker. You know what I mean? He's going to go through some stuff, and he's stealing the mascot because of course it's 1950 all of a sudden. Like, anybody out there in 2023 still stealing mascots in high school?
Like, who's doing that?
Anyway, it's a bull, and the guy goes, well, this bull should be it's not Jason, at least.
Right.
But the idiot friend, he's doing it with the idiot friend. I think the line is something like, this bull should be, or no, they should be calm. I just milked them.
Yeah.
Her.
Yeah.
And Jason turns around and goes, him. It's a him. And they kind of zoom in almost even on the one utter kind of dick thing going on. It's not like it's a hard dick, but it's and it's like, oh, okay, you proved your point, guys. Like, this isn't your dad's Power Rangers. However, your dad is the motherfucker who paid for the tickets.
Yeah.
You should have made it your dad's Power Rangers in my sense.
Yeah, for sure.
But there are, like, if you can get past that and the product placement, there are really cool parts to that movie.
Yes.
Biggest downfall, though, we could talk about is like the Megazord looks like shit. I didn't like that.
It's the worst part, man. It's the
it
worst
really
part.
is.
It's the worst part.
The 5 on their own, I liked the redesigns.
Yes.
You know, a mastodon that has 6 legs. Well, fuck it.
Sure,
You know, whatever.
Exactly.
You know,
Yeah,
it didn't.
fuck it.
That thing had 6 legs, and it's all a mastodon. I was like, this is my best impression.
Yeah.
It's kind of how I saw.
No, for sure.
Them explaining it, but then like, what the fuck did you just turn into?
No, I even got past the T-Rex having like machine guns as like little arms or something. Like, I was like, all right, that's fine. I'm not super into that, but I'll deal with it because like I'm hoping that the Megazord combo will be good. I'm hoping that we learned from the old movie, you know, because I think the Turbo movie using the actual mecha from Car Ranger was the way to go. The MMPR movie. That Megazord,
trash.
it's so bad,
Real bad.
Obviously the toy version's great, but like the what they use in the theatrical release is not good, in my opinion. And then, so I was hoping that we'd learn from that, but we didn't, and it was not good. I didn't like the Megazord in the 2017 movie at all. I thought it was a prototype. It didn't look like something that I think Ranger fans could identify with. I think there was maybe some hesitance not to like compare a Megazord to like the Transformers, like, you know, like the Michael Bay Transformers. But I don't think it had to be even in the same vein whatsoever for it to look like a Dino Megazord. You know what I mean? I thought the Dino Megazord, like the dino was missing, you know, like it just looked like an alien human, you know? I think you lost all of the Zord parts, whereas like an MMPR, you can see all those dinos on there, and you know it makes the Megazord.
100%.
So, you know, I think they lost that aspect 100% in that realm.
And the other thing that bothered me then too, which I guess physically makes sense, but spiritually destroys it, is that they do not all come together into a central cockpit.
Yep.
That they all have to stay in the Zord. And like I said, physically it makes sense. Because if not, like what? Are there little tunnels? You know, it never made sense to me when we were talking about the movie, the original.
Yeah.
Tommy zooms in and like we watch him zip out of the back of the Falcon Zord and zip into the front of the cockpit. I'm like, is there a fucking chute? Like, where did you just come from? How did that work? You know, like meanwhile, Adam's the legs. How did he get up there? Is there a ladder? Like, so I can understand their aspect of like, no, they should kind of stick in the Zord they were with. I get that.
Yeah.
But spiritually, it goes against the fact of like, we were 5, now we're 1, in my opinion. But
yes.
the biggest thing they dropped there, you know, which could have been and won't ever be, is I guess we can also just kind of bring in the legendary and see if it translates, because I don't know. It's like the 6th Ranger, always a big thing in Sentai as well.
Yeah, so it's funny because Tommy was the first 6th Ranger in Power Rangers because he's just the first, but that character was also the first 6th Ranger in Super Sentai.
No shit, okay,
Ranger.
cool.
Yeah, so there was a prototype 6th Ranger, and I think a season or 2 before that, and there had been characters that could potentially be like that extra character, but they were never a 6th Ranger. It wasn't until Zhu Ranger that they had a 6th Ranger come in at a certain point in the middle of the series that advanced the story, and that he stayed for a good chunk, you know, and then it happens every season after that for the most part. There's a couple ones that miss here and there, but nowadays it's in every season for sure. 6 Rangers nowadays in Super Sentai, they pop up in like episode 8. You know, like they're popping up soon. You know, they're like, all right, let's get them out here.
Let's get this through.
And that's a little exaggeration, but they're popping up sooner nowadays. And I think that's something that like it's in the formula way more nowadays. It's a part of Power Rangers. Like I think maybe not Power Rangers in itself, but Super Sentai, it's not just 5 anymore. Like it's like 6 are that team, you know, and it almost feels like you feel good when you see the 5, like the new team is announced, like, oh yeah, they're the 5. But you're always like, can't wait to see what 6 looks like. You know what I mean? Like,
it's
like
coming.
Exactly. Like there's that part of the team that's missing. So I feel like it's really interesting that like, you know, as a Power Ranger fan, as a Super Sentai fan, like there is that element of like, you know, things are different nowadays. Like it feels like natural to like expect this and like it's normal.
How does that work then? Because again, it's so cool to have somebody on both sides of the fence.
Yeah.
Is it the Quantum Ranger?
Yeah.
Because now that's
Love
something
him.
that's interesting to the series of like that he's not in the Sentai.
He is. Yeah.
He is or he isn't?
He is. Yeah.
All right,
Quantum
then who
Ranger,
am I?
yeah.
Is there a 6th Ranger that was made specifically
Titanium
for...
Ranger.
Thank you. All right, that's what I wanted to talk about them. All right, I'm mistaken.
Yes.
Then.
No, yeah. Titanium Ranger. He's in Lightspeed Rescue.
Okay.
By the way, I recommend watching both of these seasons because I think you would enjoy them. Lightspeed Rescue has the Titanium Ranger. Time Force has the Quantum Ranger.
Who's like the second red?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah, Titanium Ranger is a U.S. exclusive Power Ranger that they made for the U.S. He isn't in Super Sentai at all. The Super Sentai that Lightspeed is based off of is called Go-Go 5. Go-Go 5 does not have 6 Ranger at all. They're just 5. And that's where, like I was saying, like some of them don't have 6 Rangers. Go-Go 5 is a season that just doesn't have a 6 Ranger. You know, Lost Galaxy has like Magnet Defender. Kind of like a 6 Ranger, kind of not. You know what I mean?
I was going to get there eventually
Yeah,
to
there's
see if
heroes-
did you count him as a 6?
So, Gokaiger, the season I mentioned before, that is also Super Mega Force here in Power Rangers. That season is an anniversary, if you will, of like the history of everything, and they're each respective shows. Gokaiger is a celebration of Super Sentai, Super Mega Force a celebration of Power Rangers. Gokaiger, because it came first, categorizes different heroes as like these like anti-heroes, if you will, or like just extra heroes, where like they specifically named 6 or like they specifically labeled certain Rangers as 6th Rangers, even if that season only had 5 Rangers. So that might be a little confusing because there are Power Ranger seasons like Power Rangers Dino Thunder, where they started with 3 instead of 5, and then they gained that season. Dino Thunder gained Tommy Oliver as a Black Ranger, and then they gained another character as a White Ranger. That White Ranger is technically their 6th Ranger, even though he is 5th. So there's another season like that where there's 3 and then there's 1, and then the last one that pops in is the 5th, but he's actually the 6th, and that's Jungle Fury. And I'll fight anybody on that. Because my Rhino Ranger is 6th for sure. But regardless of that, Gokaiger.
He's a white rhino?
Yes.
It's fucking bitching.
Yes,
All right,
dude.
cool.
Yes. But Gokaiger categorizes Magnet Defender and a couple of other heroes like Phantom Ranger and
I was going to talk about that too. Who do you
Blue
consider
Centurion.
Thank you. Who do you consider the 6th Ranger of Turbo? Is it Phantom Ranger or is it the Blue Centurion? And did you like Linkira? I think it was him who said, like, wouldn't it physically, like, when we lose Ninjor, he's just gone.
Right.
And he said, like, wouldn't it make sense that, like, spiritually successing him, he would show up as the Blue Centurion? And I was like, dude,
that's kind of fair.
That would have been fucking dope.
That's kind of that's actually really dope, especially with like power transfers being a thing. If like his powers just transferred into like car powers, I know it's kind of lame, but like if they did,
as lame as saying that they went to like that's because that's the biggest thing of everything is from what I understand too is
right
when we learn in Zeo that you're getting the Zeo powers from the Zeo crystal, and over time, you will only get stronger,
right?
And then they come out with the Turbo movie. They're like, you will get new powers of cars. Anyway, never once saying like what happened to the Zeo powers or what happened or anything like that. It's peculiar.
I agree. I think if I had to answer who is the 6th Ranger, I would say Blue Centurion. but it's only because I feel like he helped them more. I feel like Phantom Ranger was kind of just like a mysterious character that was like there every now and then, and you know, like he had something with Cassie. I feel like when Cassie was in the show later on, but I feel like Blue Centurion was really like an aid to them. But you know, it's hard.
Also, Phantom comes back in space.
Yes, exactly.
So he can almost act as like he's almost like 6.5 in a way in 2 seasons.
Yes,
because space gets Zane.
Right, exactly.
So we do get a Silver Ranger, Sixth Ranger, but there is also like and just a bitchin' kind of design. Apparently in the comics they're doing a good amount with him, and like he's the Ranger. He is the essence of all the Rangers once fallen, and that's another. Really I think cool. The name of the channel is The Sixth Ranger. It's a pretty good one to watch, which isn't bad.
Okay, yeah. Definitely heard of him.
Going on a lot, and it can go on forever.
And
I
really
want
could.
It to, and I definitely want more episodes. But I do not. I let it up earlier, and then I kind of dove back into lore and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Want to talk about your YouTube channel, the making of the videos, all the belts and stuff, how that started, and just definitely do not want to get away without talking about that, because I know we are getting a little long in the tooth, but I don't want to not talk about that, because when I first ever even heard of you, I should say, is we have a friend in common who's also on the show. Andrew was here. So he had actually been like, can I take a picture of your office to send to my friend? And it was you, lo and behold, and stuff like that. So I had been watching them, we met, and now I watch very, very often. And they're great videos, lots of cool stuff. And I want to hear more about that. You know, how long you've been making those, and you know, we heard about the name and all that, but where did all the common writer and changes come and stuff like that? Please.
Thanks, man. It's been a journey, to say the least, and I think that kind of is vague, but it's a process, as you know, maybe with the podcast, that like sometimes the idea that you think of originally and then the idea that it ends up being can be similar, but sometimes it's not the same. So I don't know. I think what I set out to do when I started making YouTube videos, which is also very vague, YouTube videos, it could be anything. When I started making content, it was really just, I wanted to make content about the thing that I love. I've seen people give advice when it comes to making stuff, or like trying to fill that creative hole that you might have. And, you know, I'm a musician, so like I got to a point in my life where I wasn't able to make music, and I had to sell my drums to pay rent and stuff like that. So like I had a big creative hole inside of me that I wanted to fill with something. And I think video and filming was that outlet for me. Being able to just pick up a camera and like film something, then go edit it and post it and have people relate to it, and or think that it's cool because they know what I'm talking about, and or they know what I'm reenacting. I think that's very nice, and I appreciate it a lot. Like heavily, what I've done with the channel and the people that I've met, things that I've done, like I never take it for granted. I often do these things with Sophia where I just like, I'm like, let's take a moment real quick, and let's put ourselves outside of our bodies and just think about how crazy this would be if I would be doing this like a couple of years ago, you know, if I would be doing what we just did last week or whatever, you know. I recently just did a giveaway where I partnered up with this site, this toy store, that a couple of years ago, if you'd have told me that I'd done a giveaway and I partnered up to do a giveaway with the store, I would have been like, that's crazy. I would never do that. How would I do that? You know, but here I am, you know, announcing a giveaway with this store that is able to provide me a item to give away to some random fan, you know? So I think it's very cool to get to that point. How we got there was just, I think, passion, really. I think I bring it down to passion. It's something that I've said in like a couple of TikToks of mine that have like blown up, that like I don't have all the special effects, but I do have the passion, you know, like it was
my favorite thing. Yeah. It's what sold everything. You know, I was watching one of your things, because what you said, I don't relate. I can't see in my head what you're reenacting. So for me, there is a level of that's not there. However, I still find myself more than just like I know you. You know, it's not like I'm watching. Oh, there's Jem's newest video. No, I'm watching it because it generally is fun to watch you do it and to watch that passion happen. And there was the one where you said it like, I don't have the effects because I think under it you were playing what quote unquote should have been happening.
Yeah.
So during the transformation, all the effects where you can't be like spot on with your your like you're doing. Yeah. You're just like, I don't have the effects, but I have the passion, and fucking spoke to me because it really did. You know, I'm not saying you're blowing any smoke anywhere. Like, that's cool. And then there was the funny one next to that too, where again you'll have to remind me of the actual name. I know it has something to do with mayonnaise, though.
Oh, yeah.
Where you're like, I don't have the effects, but I got it was like a donut with mayonnaise or something like that, which is
insane. Yeah.
A little bit.
There's a character in a Kamen Rider season that eats everything with Kewpie mayo. It's a Japanese mayonnaise. It's a little sweeter than like our regular U.S. mayonnaise, but he eats it with everything. And there's a character in that Kamen Rider show that loves plain sugar donuts, always eats a plain sugar donut. So when these characters meet, they each have a donut together because that's just one of the places they hang out often. It's this like park where there's a donut cart. It's super random, but it's just in the show often. And there's one scene where like they're like, all right, you want a donut? He's like, yeah, I'll have a donut. Thanks. Just puts a bunch of mayonnaise on it, and the one character's like, what are you doing? And he's like, I love mayonnaise, like I put it on everything, and like he eats it. And I just like, I love the character that loves the mayonnaise. I love him so much. He's one of my favorite characters, and I have his belt because I love his rider. And like I wanted to do something fun for that morph, or for that video, and I thought I was like, we have Kewpie mayo. I just need a donut. So I told Sophia on her way home, I was like, if you can pick me up a glazed or plain sugar donut, I'm about to film this video. That'd be perfect. And she was able to get me one. So like I just did that real quick, and like people thought it was funny that knew, and then the people that don't know just think, what the fuck is this guy doing? Just putting mayonnaise in a donut. So I thought either way it was good for content.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I was gonna say though, like I started making the transformation videos specifically because you can probably relate to this, but like as a kid, when you watch the Power Rangers morph, you want to do that too, you know? And I think specifically in Forever Red, when I was a kid, I'd be in the bathroom in front of the mirror doing all 10 of them in front of my mirror, just like, you know, Zeo, Turbo, like just doing all the poses. And I think there's such a nostalgia to that anybody can put themselves in that position, in those shoes, and feel like a kid again and just feel good. And, you know, I noticed that posting them, people often say, I remember when I would do that, or like, you know, like I wish I had the morpher, like back in the day. It would be so cool if I had the actual morpher to do the morph with. And like, I don't know, I think there's, like I said, nostalgia, and there's just like a bonding moment that we all have with that. And I think that's where I find community, which is the main purpose of making content for me. I wanted to find community and people to talk about these shows with. And I think through that, and thankfully, because it does well content wise, I'm able to do it more often and like find people through that. And like aside from that, which is a big part for me, I hope to make people feel comfortable doing it, because I think the other side of it, which is the negative side, is that like a lot of people will just make fun of you for it. They'll say that it's cringe, and like I myself, like I'm a bigger guy, so like fat jokes and overweight jokes like are often sided with like the you're a kid watching Power Rangers, you know what I mean?
Yes.
So like yeah.
Yes, I do.
So stuff like that has been a just like a boost almost of like, I want to make maybe that chubby kid, or maybe that nerdy girl who loves Power Rangers. I want everybody to feel comfortable and confident that they can love something and be proud of it out loud. You know, like I want to make anybody feel like it's okay to love Power Rangers. Like they don't have to feel embarrassed or feel like a kid. Like they can do that morph just like anime people can do like the Naruto run or like, you know, like stuff like that. Like I feel like there's things in niches that are a little bit more accepted because, you know, whatever. But like I think Power Rangers and Tokusatsu right now are in a moment in time that maybe it's like where anime was in like the early 2000s or something, where like people will make fun of you for it, but in like 20 years, I'm hoping, this is wishful thinking also, but maybe in another 20 years, like there's like a bigger group of people that it like are accepting of it and it's more normalized. You know what I mean?
Right now with what we got going on with the Marvel Cinematic Universe, I think, you know, is like if we could take even one step into that direction, you know, I remember keeping all of this nerd shit under a very tight lid. I mean, I was, in my opinion, too old.
Right.
I knew in my head as a 33-year-old now, no, I was not too old. There is like, you know, like we're talking about, there is not.
Yeah.
But like, I guess I started high school at 14 and there was no way that I was going into high school like, hey, I woke up at 7 a.m. to start watching what you said earlier, which is fucking awesome. Kids WB. Yeah. Like, did you see like the newest episode of that? Like, that was really, really deep. Yeah. So I love where you're coming at it with it. And, you know, the internet, I think I've even said it before, is obviously really scary and can be pretty horrible. However, I do love that, you know, if you can find it, there are safe space for stuff like that. So when I couldn't have had that, maybe I would have stayed on past Lost Galaxy if I hadn't have told myself, convinced myself, no, it's time to put this down. This is for children, and you can't have that as someone who's not. Like, I would have loved to hear that now, and it's something I'm going to try to impart on my nephews. Don't have children of myself, but it's just like, dude, if that freak flag isn't hurting anybody, fly it and never run away from it, because like you will find other people, and now especially with the instant communication across the globe, you'll find other people waving it higher, if not harder. Yeah. You know, I think I said it earlier upstairs, we were kind of looking at stuff, and just even having this conversation is the most adult conversation, if you will, I've ever had about Power Rangers, and it feels fucking cool. Like, it's awesome. It's really good. There was a time where it was your birthday and I sent something and I sent you, and it's so deep cuts that people will have to keep up a little bit. It's Carlos as the In Space Ranger high-fiving Adam as the Black Ranger, the original MMPR. So, like, to know where that comes from and know that you do and know the significance of the episode and know, like, everything about just sending the GIF made it that much cooler. Just like, he fucking gets that shit. That's pretty cool. So then to see you take it that step further with the videos, because you're right. I remember there is a video, or it was destroyed, but somewhere in time. Because I remember specifically asking my dad, like, I don't get it. Like, if you're telling me, because my parents were cool. Like, they had to, like, they had to tell me it's not real, you know? I was like, so I don't understand. If you're saying it's not real, how is it that 1 second they're there and the next they're transformed? My dad said, there's a camera. You know, they stop the camera, they go and change, and then they start the camera with them standing in the same exact spot. So there is a video, or there was, of him proving this to me with a camcorder. Like, I had Power Ranger onesies. So, like, Nick stand there in one thing and say, all right, it's Morphin time. And then he stopped the camera. I put on the things. And then I was there, morphed. And, like, I saw that. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. That's, you know, and that's what it took me to make sense.
That's so cool.
So somewhere in the universe, that video exists. And, yes, that little kid would have been jazzed to have seen what you're doing. You know, would have. So like that part of the inner child in me is like, this guy's doing it. He's doing the fucking cool things. And like you said earlier too, with your viewership, like, you're not. People are watching. People are noticing and loving it, dude. Thanks, it's cool. How cool is that?
That's very appreciated.
And then finally, the last thing about them, which is cool, is, you know, you have this platform which definitely has viewers, and it's not always like, look at me. Look, you know, your latest one, long version one, because you have put out shorts since then, involves the two people that we're talking about, the friend that we know in common and then his partner and stuff like that, and like that's cool. That's really cool. I want to talk a little bit about the making of that because I actually said to them, it's Andrew.
Yeah.
And I was like, Andrew, like, I want to talk to you a little bit about the direction because I don't know the characters. I don't know really what they were supposed to be doing. I just know what I saw. So I kind of want to talk to him about it as, you know, an actor and a performer. I was like, so what I was kind of picking up is like, you're young at this. You're new at this.
That's crazy.
And you hear this kind of thing going on and you're sitting there and you finally look at your partner who's playing this other character who is not new at this. And you kind of look at them and you're like, we fucking get to do it. Are we going to get to transform? We get to transform now. And they look at you very sullenly and they go, yes, we get to transform now. And then you do it. And he goes, yeah, that was, and from your reaction too, that was exactly what I was supposed to pick up. And that's what you were putting down and shit. Bravo, man. Like that's fucking storytelling and shit like that. And that's exactly what I picked up. And they did a good job as actors, directors. Like the whole thing makes sense. It's storytelling. It's art. It's cool shit.
That's insane. Now it's really crazy to hear, out of all people, hear you say this right now. I just like when I'm editing, when I'm making it, I often think to myself, are they gonna know what I'm doing? Are they going to get, like the audience, like, are they going to get what I'm trying to say? Because nobody's saying anything.
That's why it's brilliant.
Because I often see the thing with like video and filmmaking is that if you're going to have audio, you should have really good audio. And for me right now, I haven't had the money to put down on a really good shotgun mic for my camera or just to have on set with us. So a lot of, like, if I do audio, it's ADR. I just re-record it when I come back home. You know, like we'll re-record certain lines, or I'll just do voiceover that isn't being like nobody's saying anything. It's just thoughts that somebody's saying, or, you know, just like a nice voiceover that narrates. But I often just tell people to express certain things that I'm trying to convey, because the main thing with what I'm trying to do with my videos that reenact scenes or that are scenes that I'm just creating, I want to bring that human element to Toku, because like something that I gravitate towards with Power Rangers, with Kamen Rider, is the human elements, the human stories that I relate to. So like, because I don't have the special effects and because I have the passion, I just want to be able to recreate certain things or make scenes and take the toys that I have, my collection, and adapt from those seasons. I want to take the themes that those seasons have and put them in my videos and make them my own, just like make my own little adaptions with them. So with that specific video that you're referencing, the Hirobi and Jin Henshin, it's so crazy that you nailed it, because those...
I didn't. You nailed it. I just picked it up.
Well, you did figure it out, because those characters specifically are in that season of Kamen Rider, they're androids. And Andrew's character is a fresh new android, and Callista's character was a father figure android. So I expressed that to them. I was like, listen, Callista, your character is very sure. Your character is a parental figure, and you are serious. Like, you don't emote other than that. And if you watch the show we're watching, that's what that character is. He's serious. He doesn't give a lot, and he is a father figure to that other character. And Andrew, I just told him, I was like, you're just curious, and you cannot, like, you want to see everything, and you're young, you're childish, and that's what that character is in the beginning of the show. No spoilers. But there's just a lot that I wanted to convey, because that specific show that we were referencing is one of my favorites. And those characters I really love. So I wanted to make sure that that was in there. But with that comes a lot of doubt, and comes a lot of, you know, just like hesitation. And because of that, I was like, is this going to come out? But hearing you say that, somebody that hasn't even seen that show, reassures me that I'm on the right track. I'm doing a good job.
Barreled right down that track, man. Yeah, no, I picked that up immediately. And
Thank you.
Did watch it more than once too. So like,
nice.
I enjoyed it, because again, the story, it makes sense.
That's sick.
And that's cool.
That's awesome.
So yeah, continue on with that for sure. You know, we were talking about, you know, with the toys you have and the toys I have now too. Because like, just as a contributor, I just want to see more.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That's
like,
very cool,
I just want to see more, because like I said, that there is that 3 to 14-year-old, version of Nick, all those 11 years versioned up in once, who would just be like knowing that to see the collection and to see like, yeah, dude, you're going to have a friend over and he's going to bring a bag of toys. They'll show you what he does and how he met. Like just this whole thing has jazzed me up a lot. And like I said, we barreled through a lot of conversation. We went in a lot of different ways. So the prospect of even narrowing it down just a little bit in the future and kind of going through and just this connection that we forged is, like I said, like this could be the start of something even bigger. And like we would have never seen it if it wasn't for the iteration of the podcast of what I thought this was going to be. If you go back to season 1, episode 1, it's not this. Yeah. And what will this be next year and stuff like that kind of thing. I don't know. It was cool, and I really appreciate all the time. Like I did, I took a good amount. I warned you though. I did kind of warn you. I was like, it was going to take a while. Yeah. But I also knew too that we've almost bottled it for a little bit because we know each other at work. Yeah. Where we have to work. Yeah. So as much as I would love to sit and take, 90 minutes. I think it's been going now. Like I can't see That's the only thing that's not going good about the new setup is I should probably see the screen, but right. It was just cool, and we'll try to narrow it down, like maybe even go season for season stuff. But I don't know what's gonna lead. But for now, I don't want to keep you any longer because I do feel like we both have to be at work tomorrow too. Yeah. The conversation will go on there. There will be more than one episode here if you're ever down for it. But of course, I just wanted to really take the time to say thanks. Everybody out there who's like, wow, they did bounce around there a lot. We did. You want us to talk about more stuff next time too, and that's great. Anything like you said, this episode is very different than any other episode we ever made. Anybody who's listened for a while will know that there used to be sections. The show is called Buds, Bros, and Superheroes. So Bud, we both work at, it's cool if I say it, right? Yeah, it's a dispensary. Yeah. So we're very much in the marijuana world, both professionally and stuff like that. We could have had, I'm sure we could have gone on just a Bud section and never come out of that either. The Bros section is more so what do we do that's not marijuana or super nerdy, what do we do with our other downtime kind of thing, and then superheroes would have been the conversation. So there's lots of stuff for us to continue to talk about. Anybody out there who's like, I wanted the Bud section, sorry, next time we'll talk about it next time. There's still a lot of next time if that'd be cool with you.
Oh my God, anytime. Yeah. I would have a lot of fun talking about more Power Rangers. I'd have more fun talking about Toku stuff, but I would have fun talking about anything else with you, honestly. Hell yeah. Whatever you wanted me to talk about. If
Charmed.
Yeah. A new movie came out. We talked about TMNT, a quick second, or the Blue Beetle. If there's a new movie that comes out and you want to talk about it, I'd always be down to throw my opinion, honestly.
Fuck yeah, dude.
Yeah, dude. Awesome. And I'm always down to come and talk, honestly. Yeah. And I hope because I'm going to send this out to my fan base, I hope if anybody is here from my people, I hope you guys follow and I hope you guys support because I know Nick, and Nick is great people. Thanks. And I know that if you're here, you might be here because of me, but I hope you stay for Nick.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm glad I gave out the warning, though, that, if this was your first one, they came specifically for you. Other ones won't be exactly like that. We do have other Power Ranger episodes where me, JD, and Mark go through some stuff. That's fun. That was pretty fun. We had the best joke about, we were watching Pulp Fiction, and there's that scene where Christopher Walken is talking about how he got Bruce Willis the watch, went through your father, he had it up his ass. Right. And we're talking about, where did Rita Repulsa ever get the green Power Ranger coin? And JD goes into this bit about she had it hidden in her ass and stuff it's a pretty good episode. I don't know. There's almost no Sentai talk, but anyway, it does happen in future episodes for sure. Yeah, that's fun. For anybody who's listening, heard about the videos, heard about the stuff, just one more time, we did talk about it at the beginning, where are they going to find you at for that?
Yeah, you can find me anywhere. Usually at PrawnHorn Gem, but on YouTube you can find me at PrawnHorn Heroes. That is the channel that's my baby aside from my actual baby. I've been posting on there since 2020. and it's evolved. It's evolved. There's such a variety of content on there. Like I had a podcast with a friend of mine from California, Hawkillies, where like he also does stuff in the Toku fandom. But like we talked about Toku that was officially released every week, and that was really fun. But like you'll find so many different things on there. Most recently, you'll find all my transformations because that's what I do now. But at PrawnHorn Heroes, like that's my home when I'm not at home or at work.
Nice.
Yeah.
Thank you very much again, Jem.
Absolutely.
It was great. Hope to have you on. Anybody listening, made it through the whole thing, really, really appreciate it. Like you kind of said earlier, any support is great support. You know, podcasts, even ones that take giant hiatus, are really supported by people who listen, and not only listen, but go, hey, I just listened to this great podcast. You should listen to this too, even if it's episode by episode, one at a time. Like, that shit's kind of cool. New things are coming from Buds, Bros, and Superheroes. This volume 3 is going to be a little bit differently done, but I think the spirit remains. And you know, just thank you for coming hanging out. My name's been Nick James. I've been joined by Jem. Hope you guys have a good one. I don't even remember how I used to end it. There used to be a little something, but now I can't even remember it. Anyway,
Snoogans.
nice. Thanks, guys.